and then we take them home.
Reverend William Hayes of Tullamore Presbyterian Church in County Offaly. William, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
And do you recognise that voice?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was very strange whenever this podcast came out. My wife sent me over a message saying, "Hey, do we remember this lady?" And we had known her as Samantha Cooks, which I mean, I presume maybe that's her real name. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
That was. Yeah, but she came along to our church for a relatively short period. I mean, we don't have a huge amount to kind of add to this story in some ways, Joe. But it's but she came along to Tullamore Presbyterian Church for we think maybe about. We don't know, about 5 or 6 or 7 weeks in 2014. And very quickly we realised that there was something not quite right there that was going on with her. She had turned up, small church, you know, we're always very open and welcoming to people whenever they come in. And so we asked people lots of questions and things like that. And very quickly her story sounded very strange. So it did. There was all sorts of bits of her story that seemed to be kind of far too neatly connected into what we were doing as a church. We were just starting with some refugee work at that stage, which we've kept on doing over the years. So we did some stuff in conjunction with the council, and you know, she seemed to kind of know people all over the place. And on the one hand, part of me was kind of thinking, oh right, okay, God sent somebody here to really help us. But on the other hand, I was thinking, gosh, this all sounds quite neat, if you know what I mean. A little suspiciously neat in some of this. And also little bits of her story didn't join up. So what we thought, Joe, was we had maybe somebody who just wasn't quite well, a bit of a fantasist, and we just kind of went to go and look her up a wee bit online, because we kind of thought, you know, she's somebody who's not quite here among her own people or whatever, and if she isn't all that well, and if there's all these kind of issues with her, then you know, maybe we can try and find somebody who could help her a wee bit, or maybe somebody was missing her. But now, thankfully, she did use her real name, because it meant that whenever we did look her up, we saw some of the and some of the really quite tragic stuff there with the surrogacy issues and various other kind of stuff. I know that there was allegations made in the papers that maybe haven't gone to trial and so on in England, so we can't really, you know, say too much about those, but stuff that was alleged anyway.
She did dupe a couple, an innocent couple, out of money for surrogacy, which the judge described as a cruel crime.
Yeah, and we saw the photographs from that trial, and we thought, gosh, that's her. So it is. So we got a wee bit worried at that point then, because we had been we saw the stuff online that the English police were looking for. We got in touch with guards locally. They said, yeah, they had heard about this, that they had thought that she was in another part of Offaly at that stage, where they were concerned that she might have done another fraud on somebody there.
Okay.
And so we decided then, as the elders in the Presbyterian Church are the kind of body that look after the church, and one of the group of elders there, and we decided that we would just kind of have a word with her on the Sunday morning before church started. Now, thankfully, she's one of the very few people who ever turned up on time to the church in Tullamore. We got great timekeeping here, but she was there a bit early, and myself and one of the elders, we just asked her to step out the front, somewhere public at the church garden, and just asked her about this kind of stuff. I mean, you know, we said, look, we know who you are. We know a little bit about your story, and we know that within our own congregation there are some people who have had difficult pasts and so on. So we weren't trying to say to her, you know, we're judging you or whatever in this one. But we said, you know, if you're here and you want to make a fresh start, just be honest with us and start to talk about this, and we can see what we can do to talk to the guards and all that kind of thing with you. But if you're here to try and defraud people, then, you know, we really don't want you here to try and defraud people. And Joe, it was the weirdest moment, because as you can guess from that stuff that you were playing, you know, she's got this kind of happy demeanour, if you know what I mean. And then that dropped. It was like a mask. So it just dropped, and she very coldly said, you know, could you get my bags from the church? I'm going. And it was just the sheer change, the sudden change that happened there, that actually kind of frightened me a wee bit, because I thought, this isn't just somebody who is a bit vulnerable or whatever. This has been an act that has been going on here. So we weren't too keen on either of us going and picking up her bag and then maybe being accused of taking something out of it. So we asked her to go in and pick it up. She picked it up and she went away. And we knew at that stage that she had been, she got very involved in the local community. She'd been volunteering in different organisations and so on. So we very quickly then kind of phoned round whoever we knew at that stage just to say, look, we're a bit worried about this person, that we don't think that they're there with the most honest of intentions. Yeah.
And you were walking a fine line, Reverend, because on the one hand, it is your ministry, and it doesn't need to be a ministry. People have it in them, the humanity. You don't want to be, you're saying to yourself, maybe this person needs help. And we have to walk a fine line between accusing her and offering a helping hand. But you're saying she quite quickly rejected. Did she show any interest in the helping hand?
No, not at all. That was the bit that was actually a bit scary at that stage. It was literally like a mask slipped. She went from being kind of, oh, I'm so confused at what you're saying here, to just suddenly like, okay, I've been spotted, I'm outed here, and I'm gone. And that was, I just find that a bit weird. The elder who was with me at the time, he agreed as well that it literally just looked like a different face almost. The kind of friendly, happy demeanour had disappeared, and this very cold, angry look just suddenly
Okay, and then you say, as you said earlier, William, you can detect it in her voice. Here's a longer clip of her voice from the Dockham one, the real Carrie Jade.
I was born in Besborough in Cork. So I was born obviously in Ireland, and then I was adopted, but I grew up in the UK. My mum was one of the first to be allowed to adopt as a single parent. I was adopted because my mum thought there was too many people on the planet. Okay. So even my adoption was some sort of, my mum was a bit of a rebel back in the day and very much a feminist. I love her to pieces. I went to Steiner school, so my grandparents were horrified at that. I think my grandparents were convinced I would never learn to read or write. I grew up as a kid on protest marches and all of that, so that was our holidays. Like, some children got taken to, SeaWorld in Florida. I got taken to stand outside to protest Port Illicum, the whale. My mum would always have her opinions on things. And I can always remember my grandmother always used to say, oh, well, that's because we let you listen to David Bowie.
Yeah, that's her again, obviously.
The really weird bit about that show is that that's actually the plot of a book called The Horizontal Epistles of Andromeda Vale. It's this kind of comedy writer called Adrian Plath who writes that, and some of those lines are straight out of Adrian Plath.
But tell us the name of the book again, William. Sorry.
It's been years ago since I've read it. The Horizontal Epistles of Andromeda Vale. It's about a little girl who's in hospital, and her mother is one of the Greenham Common women, and she writes out all these letters and stuff like that. So it's kind of 50% funny and 50% tragic at the same time. But she was just literally, I've never heard that bit there, but she was just literally kind of quoting lines from that by the writer Adrian Plath. Yeah.
And did she say she could speak Hebrew?
Yeah, she said she was brought up in a Hebrew. No, she said she was brought up in a Hebrew-speaking environment. So she was. And what had happened is one of the older ladies in church had said, and you see, it all sounds a bit fanciful when you say it like this. So it does, because one of the older ladies in church had said something to her, and she just kind of didn't register what the lady was saying in Hebrew, and it was just wee funny things like that just the story didn't join up. And at that stage, we weren't thinking, oh, this is somebody who's a fraudster here. We were thinking, oh, maybe this is just somebody who kind of, you get, I don't know, is it Walter Mitty figures? Is that the term? I can't remember the exact. You get people who just make stuff up. So and we kind of worried that maybe she was a vulnerable person like that. And it was only then, whenever we went to go and look her up online, and just to see, was there something wrong here, or was there somebody, looking for this person or whatever? And this, we realised that it might not be quite as, it might be a wee bit more sinister than that.
Yeah. And then the problem is, one, we know she has taken money on other occasions, but two, because it does, well, maybe it doesn't in your case, but it does make people very, very weird. Like she was going on there about Bessborough and her mother being born in Bessborough, which is, as you know, a mother and baby home. But now what she's doing is diluting or in some way invalidating. If someone else comes on and said, "Can I talk about Bessborough?" Immediately you're saying, "Is this another Samantha Cooks?" Like someone coming on looking for money, or someone that she is affecting genuine stories and genuine people, and she's making people. I don't know. Would it make you cynical? Would it make it not trust people? Because she's not whatever we can say about her, and she has been convicted, but she's not trustworthy, to say the least. I'm baffled by. I'm not baffled. I'm intrigued by your superior knowledge, William. I thought you were going to say the quote was from Ulysses from yesterday, so to speak, but it's from the horizontal epistles of Andromeda.
It's some of the stuff that the character there says, because she's kind of abandoned in this little hospital.
Okay, let's hear it again. Let's hear it again, and maybe you can tell it.
I was born in Bessborough in Cork. So I was born obviously in Ireland, and then I was adopted, but I grew up in the UK. My mum was one of the first to be allowed to adopt as a single parent. I was adopted because my mum thought there was too many people on the planet. Okay. So even my adoption was some sort of, my mum was a bit of a rebel back in the day, and very much a feminist. I love her to pieces. You know, I went to Steiner school, so my grandparents were horrified at that. I think my grandparents were convinced I would never learn to read or write. I grew up as a kid on protest marches and all of that. So that was our holidays. Like, some children got taken to, SeaWorld in Florida. I got taken to stand outside to protest Port Illicum, the whale. My mum would always have her opinions on things. And I can always remember my grandmother always used to say, "Oh, well, that's because we let you listen to David Bowie."
What's the similarities?
So those two bits at the end there, the bit about the other kids got taken to SeaWorld, I went to go and protest whatever the whale was. I couldn't make out the name there. Yeah. And then the bit about the grandmother saying that it was because she got allowed to listen to David Bowie. Yeah, it's really funny actually. So because that's quite an obscure book. You have to be really kind of steeped in English evangelicalism to go reading those books. So you do. So, I mean, maybe that tells you a bit about her actual background, if she has picked up one of those and read those. But that's just really weird to hear that and to go, oh yeah, I remember that story.
Well, maybe if she is of a Christian bent, so to speak, she might have a Damascene conversion, will she? And come on radio and say, "I'm sorry and I don't mean to upset people."
Oh, well, look, I wish she would, but as long as she doesn't keep going about being a danger with that. And then some people, can cynically use that as, you see that maybe not so much this side of the world, but certainly over in America, you see that with politicians where they all of a sudden come to faith and, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, and they make up CVs and false CDs, and then, but invariably your own lies trip you up. You have to remember the lies you told,
and that was where the issue was with this, was that it didn't all join up, or also in some ways she bumped into a bunch of people with, in the case of some of the older folks in our congregation, with a wee bit more knowledge than maybe she was expecting on some of the issues, which again just left us with this kind of, really, is she actually, is this actually what she was, where she was brought up, or is this actually what happened with her?
Well, apparently she's still in Ireland. That's the latest we've heard.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, down maybe around the southeast.
Right.
And she seemed to drift towards churches. Like in Glenageary, she was involved in the church, and now we know in Tullamore she was involved in your church. So.
Well, thankfully only for a few weeks, because I did think what kind of damage she could have done if she'd been there for longer. And we felt so scared because and you feel, I feel like, now that this has kind of come out like this, I feel glad that we did what we did. But at the time, we genuinely felt a bit stupid doing this, because there's this nice lady who's turned up in church, and we're busy saying to her, we think that you're a fraudster, and thank God it's been kind of vindicated a bit afterwards.
It is very difficult to even come up with a formula of words that will call out a fraudster when you weren't 100% sure.
Yeah.
It's happened at this program from time to time. but you start doubting yourself. You say, hang
Yes,
on a minute,
and that's
maybe
exactly what it was like. Yeah.